Now, if you're not, you're gonna love BetaEarth, a game by Ulrich A. Boquick. Trust me, he's not a... And this game is the furthest thing from... So don't be... Just check this video out and hit up the GameCrafter for BetaEarth. That is, unless you're... Ulrich A. Boquick. He's one of the founding fathers of this dead CCG community that we love. At least I do. At least some of us do. But he's been putting out dead CCG videos for over 6 years. He's reviewed a ton of them. So check him out. He actually changed the name of his channel to The Review lately. So type in any kind of old dead CCG followed by the review, and I'm sure he's more than likely reviewed it. His game is on the GameCrafter right now. You can check it out. Game looks real cool. I'm gonna take you through it and give you a little how to play. I'd like to hear it. Here it goes. So to win BetaEarth, the point is to bring your opponent's life total down from 20 health points to 0 health points. In the game, we've got pretty much, we've got a few type of different cards. I got them kind of laid out right here. Take a look at them. So the blue cards are character cards. There's this little purple diamond right here that shows you if a card is unique, and you can only have one of it in a deck, or one of it, pretty much one of it in the deck or in the setup. So this is a character. Characters actually start the game out into the field. You get allotted 100 points of characters. So this isn't really a great example, but right here I've got a big 80 point. In the standard game you get 100 points. Right here I've got a big 80 point character with a small 15 point character. Okay, so that's 95 right there. Then I've got the opponent sitting at about the same, but I've got the opponent out with 75 and 25. So right there like at 100. But it's probably smarter to go with like 4 smaller starting characters, but that's cool. Okay, every character, they're gonna have their name, mainframe right there, and then a persona, which is following the main name and a dash. Then that's going to tell you the persona. There are actually multiple copies of the characters, but they all have a different persona following the main name. Right. And yeah, the brackets is the point total. 80, 15 right there. Okay. On the character cards, you've got different stats on them, but these are called attributes. So this guy mainframe right here, he's got 4 attributes. The yellow is the energy manipulation attribute. The red is the fighting skill. Got 2 fighting skill right here. The green is the strength. Blue is the intellect. Orange is the stamina / basically the health of the character, the toughness, if you will. Of course, the text box, it'll add variability to the characters and such. Okay, now there's also a big extensive co-op mode in the game. Pretty much I'm mostly going to be going over the standard competitive mode, but just for later we've got the co-op characters, which look much like the standard characters, but the co-op characters, they've actually got they're horizontal first of all, then they've got this blue box right here, boss version or whatever. So they've got the name Hippero right here, then the persona followed by the dash, followed after the dash, and then this 15 points per P in the brackets. This stands for 15 points per player. So the game can be co-op up to 4 players, so that would make this boss a 60 pointer if you were playing with the full complement of 4 players playing. But if it were 3, then it would be 45 points for Hippero. Okay, then going through this for the co-op mode, you would take the deck out of all of these cards. We've got a whole bunch of cards in the box that you can get on the GameCrafter right now. Bunch of cards, but it comes with certain decks or whatever. So you would take, with this boss character, you would grab the Tech Savvy deck and add these cards. And then it's got a certain thing that this boss does. That's right there, but that's co-op mode. Then also, like when you start out the game on co-op mode, you will have this scenario card. And then of course you would start with the location on board. We'll show you how you start with the location on board in the standard mode. But anyway, that's the co-op mode. We're not really following that, but you can check out the reviews channel to see all about that. He's got a 6-part series of this right now. But for right now, I'll be just going over the standard mode for the most part. Okay. And then we've got... Okay, so the location card, it's going to be a green card. Green border card. Then we've got allies. They're gold border cards. Allies, they don't have as many stats as characters. So allies are basically smaller characters. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to actually be calling things entities to just to not be confused between characters and allies. I'll just call them entities if I'm talking about both of them. But so on an ally, this will be gray is the attack, and then green is the defense, and the orange is still the stamina, which is the health. So attack, defense, health, right? Then we've got equipment. Much like in a Magic game, the gray border is the equipment. You would of course equip this to characters, and then it'll go like that. And then we've got the red border cards, which are events and interrupts. So events are, you can play them on your turn, and interrupts, you can play them on anybody's turn. They'll do just one-time deals, and then you will discard them. Okay, then we've got green. So on certain cards, we've got a requisite box. R stands for requisite. So requisite box is looks like strength 8 to play this card. And actually, this is actually an event that would stay on the field. Once per turn, whenever damage will be dealt, is redirected to this card instead. Event discarded after 10 plus damage has been redirected this way. Limit 1. Okay, yeah. Pretty interesting. In the standard game, a 50 card minimum deck. So when you set up your cards, like I said, you're going to have 100 points to set up. We've already really done that with our 2 characters out here with 100 points. And then you're also going to have up to 1 location that you can bring out. Okay, so no limit to copies of a single card in a deck. So you can have as many copies as you want of a particular card, except for unique cards with the purple diamond right there. That's unique. Okay, the play area is going to be the center of your game mat or whatever, your area. To the right, you're going to have your draw deck. So 50 card minimum draw deck, no maximum. Then you're going to have tokens, which can be represented by dice, pennies, glass beads, whatever. Then to the left of the play area, the center, you're going to have the removed from the game area, which is basically exile, like really all the way out, never to return again, removed from the game, like you might as well put it back in the box, it's not coming back in the game. And then we've got the out of play area, which is basically the graveyard or whatnot, not the discard, but it's like another area out of play, but you can bring stuff from out of play area back. Okay, now from setup, you're gonna search for cards. Go into the first, so if you have any search for cards abilities, then you're gonna go into the deck and grab those cards, and added to your opening hand. So for example, Liz, Twisted AI, 15 points or whatever, she has Inhabit, which will go into Inhabit and Linked. But if you control no hosts, may search for one. If Tess is on table, Liz's point total reduced to 0 and her host is attack +2. And then followed by some flavor checks at the bottom. But okay, so this search for, so she's starting the game set up. So basically we'll move this and then say that we have this set up. So we both have 100 points, me and the opponent. And then I've got a location out. So we're both set up. And then at the beginning of the game, we're setting up so I can search for my thing. So let's say I'm not going to really search for it, but I could search for this at the beginning of the game, search for that card. Then the opening hand, the normal standard hand size is 7 cards. So I would search for that card. That would be one of the 7. So I would go draw 6 more cards to have a hand of 7. And then, so the order played that you set up cards can matter. So just be mindful of that. The way that you set up the cards can matter. The order in which you do so. Cards can also be set up into the out of play area to the left. Bear in mind that. Okay, so the gameplay is pretty much, we've got some phases. The first phase is the discard and draw phase, where you can discard any number of cards from your hand and draw back up to the hand size, which is normally going to be 7 cards. Okay, then the next phase of the gameplay is the main phase, where you can play any cards you can pay for that you have the requisites for too. So play 1 of each type of card per turn. So you can only play 1 of each type of card per turn. Keep that in mind. Now we've got equipment. Those cards are played onto characters. Well, not characters, but they cannot be played onto allies. You cannot play equipment gray border onto allies. Okay, then another restriction is you can only have up to 4 allies on your side of the field, the gold border guys. At the end of the cleanup phase, you can only have 4 out. So you can have, say 7 allies out. You can have them out, but you can only have 4 at the end of the cleanup phase. At the start of the cleanup phase, rather. But we'll get to the cleanup phase later. 1 event per turn. You can play interrupts, no limit to interrupts. Yeah, I mean, you can play no limit to events as well. Okay, so characters, you can play 1 character per turn. So say you come across another character, you can play another character 1 per turn. From your deck, you know, not in the setup, but from your deck. Okay, transfer cards as many times as you like. So like you can have an equipment attached to 1 character, then transfer it to another character. Things like that as many times as you like during the main phase. Okay, and host equipment, those guys can be played on the field, not an ally. Okay, then you can also, another thing you can do is sacrifice. So at the beginning of the main phase, cards with the point total, you can sacrifice them in order to say that I wanted to get rid of Liz because I've kind of already used her for what I need to use her for. Then I could sacrifice her at the beginning of the main phase and then play like, say, like another character. But you can't go over the max 100 points in the brackets. Okay. Then we've got swap personas, 1 time per turn. Let's say that I had a different Liz with a different persona. I could swap the Liz out for a different named Liz once per turn, but can't go over the point total. Okay, then for the main bread and butter of the game, the battle phase. Okay, so we'll move all these things right here, get into the battle phase. the battle phase consists of, you can have multiple battles as you want during the battle phase. So a lot of battles can happen. Okay, we've got the first phase of the battle phase. The first step of the battle phase is the assignment step, where players announce an attack with the character or ally they control. So let's say that I've got Enforcer as an ally on this team right here as well. Okay, so let's say I announce that I want to do, now I could do any of these, so any of these 4 attributes, I could attack with any one of these attributes into, I can target an opponent, its character or ally or entity, as I will call them. So let's say that I'm gonna attack with the yellow energy manipulation attribute. So I would exhaust this character, turn it 90 degrees from being upright. So I'll exhaust it, and I'll say that I'm going to attack with energy manipulation over to the big guy, to the big opponent with the 75 points. Okay, now the opponent, if they choose not to exhaust one of their entities, then my 8 damage would go straight to the opponent's life total, which they have 20 points total. The whole point of the game is to knock them down to 0 life. But saying that they do want to block, say that they do want to defend, so they could either, so any entities that they have out, they could exhaust them and then block my attack. Okay, so say that this is the target, and then say that I don't want to block with the intended target, I could come in and block with another one of my entities. Okay, so let's say that I block with Susan, martial artist. So I'm going for like an 8 energy manipulation attack, and then I can choose any one of these attributes to block with. Okay, so she's got a pretty high fighting skill. So let's say that I want to block for my big guy, and then I'm going to block that attack right here. So now instead of me targeting the abductor and doing damage to it, Susan has blocked. So mainframe is going to do 8 energy manipulation damage to Susan. Susan is going to in turn do 6 fighting skill damage to mainframe. But before that's done, since Susan has decided to join the battle, I now get a turn to add somebody else to the battle. Let's say that I want to add an ally this time. Let's say I want to add Enforcer. And then say I want Enforcer to get into the fight with its 3 attack, the gray attribute. Then it would go back to the opponent. Do they want to have anybody to join into the fight? Let's say that they don't want to have anybody else join into the fight. Okay, so then it's over. Then we count up all of the pluses and minuses, maybe from the text boxes. But for the sake of brevity, we're just gonna say that we're just looking at the raw attribute stats. So the attacker would decide where the damage really goes first. So okay, so I'm gonna deal this 8 energy manipulation damage over to Susan, and then I'll have that stick first. So Susan will decide to block with the 6. So that would make Susan take 2 damage to her, because the 8 to her 6 leaves 2 excess damage, and then Susan has a stamina, aka health, of 4. So 2 more points of damage and Susan is basically out of the game. Okay, now Susan gets to counterattack because pretty much everything has counterattack unless unless the attacker has a special keyword that's like Swift. I believe it's Swift. Okay, but Susan, one wrinkle of the game too is that you cannot block with and attack with the same stat. So it would be nice if Susan could counterattack with the 6 that she has in fighting skill, but you can't use the same attribute twice in a turn. So naturally, Susan will attack with her intellect. Let's go ahead and read Susan's text box. Damage taken is reduced by 1. Also, when counterattacking with fighting skill, she does so at +3. But that stat is so big, I just want to block with that one. So the damage is actually reduced by 1. So she would actually only take 1 point of damage from that attack right there. Man, and I'm getting this twisted. So these guys would add up their stats. So that's 3 plus the 8. So that's actually 11 going into Susan. And Susan is going to block with the 6. So that's 5 excess reduced by 1. So that's 4. Which is in fact enough to kill Susan. But before that's done though, the damage is dealt simultaneously. So Susan will choose to hit back with the blue stat, with the blue attribute, which is intellect. And then she can choose to do 4 damage. And then the defender will get to decide, the counterattacker decides where that they're gonna place the damage. So naturally you wouldn't want to do it here because this guy's so big it's not gonna really affect him. So Susan says she's gonna do the 4 damage here. And then me as the defender now, I get to decide where I want to, which stat. Well, I can't use the gray again since I've already used the gray, so I'm going to use the green to be the defense. So I'm defending with 2. So 4 minus 2 is 2 damage dealt to this enforcer, which is unfortunately enough to kill the enforcer with only 2 health. So the enforcer's out of the game. And so is Susan. But my mainframe is perfectly untouched. Okay, so that's pretty much how you do the combat. Kind of a lot to wrap your head around, but it makes for interesting gameplay for sure. And they don't want to add another guy to the fight. Okay, we went over the damage step. So the attacker calculates their total attack value, chosen stats and modifications, and subtracts defenders chosen attributes, plus and minus modifications, and the total defense value. And then if the difference is 1 or more, the attack was successful. Then you go into assigning combat to defender stamina equal to the difference. So if reduced to 0, the entity is KO'd, which we just did with Susan and the enforcer. And then the same process goes for the counterattackers. So pretty much the same thing with the counterattackers too. And the attacker decides where the damage is assigned. We just did all that. Okay. Then we've got the cleanup phase, where knocked out characters with all of their equipment and events are discarded. So knocked out characters, let's say that something was on Enforcer and Susan, their equipment and events are discarded along with them. So if they had those. Discard excess allies. You can only have max 4 allies on a team at the start of the cleanup phase. Okay. Then exhausted entities are readied. So this guy would ready, mainframe would ready, back to a vertical alignment. All damage on entities is removed, aka healed. So like if you had a dice or a counter on you of damage, you'll take it off at this point in the cleanup phase. You check for victory conditions. Some cards have an alternate victory condition. Right now there's a card called Cargo Run. I'll show you that one when I do my next video flipping through the cards. And then we've got the pass initiative phase, which is the 5th and final phase. The pass initiative phase, you would draw 1 card and declare your turn as over. Then the initiative passes to the opponent, who will go through all the same phases, and then you pretty much do that back and forth till one player is all the way down to 0 health. Of course, unless you get a alternate win condition. Okay, a couple more things. We've got timing issues, which is initiative player has priority. So whatever they say, like if there's a tie on something, the initiative player is going to win that tie. And then the stack is pretty much this is a last in first out system. So say that I play this card, then the opponent plays this card, and then I play this card. This card is going to have the most priority. So this card is going to happen first, and then once that resolves, then if that stops this card from happening, then it's not going to happen. But if this card allows this card to happen, then this card will happen. And then so on and so forth. So if this card stops this card from happening, then this card does not happen. But if it does, then it happens. Then if it allows this card to happen, then this card will happen. But if it stops any lower card from happening, then that's what it does. That's the last in first out system. Okay, now decking out. Whenever you get to no cards in your draw deck from that initial 50 minimum draw deck, then you don't instantly lose the game when you get milled. You only create a new draw deck from your discard pile, but the only caveat is you lose 5 health points. So you can really go down from milling yourself, from decking out. Okay, then the out of play area, the area that's to the left. This is an area that can't interact with your in-play area cards at all, with the exception of things like linking and hosting, which we'll get into a little later. But pretty much the out-of-play area to the left is just a whole different thing than the in-play area, for the most part. Okay, now we've got the destroyed area, aka the exile, aka the really no longer exists for the rest of the game area. Destroyed is the worst. The worst is really out of the game. Okay, now we've got a few keywords. So one of the big keywords is inhabit. And things that are inhabited, they're either moved to or played to, and from then on will always exist in the out of play area to the left. So like it's just a whole different area from the in play area. But if it's got inhabit, then you basically host a guy and then you inhabit something, kind of have a psychic thing going on, and you like ghostly, corporeally control something that's in the in-play area. Pretty interesting. Okay, then we've got linked, which is you can share an intellect value with another linked character, even if it's in the out-of-play area. Crazy keywords. Okay, then we've got the host keyword, which is basically something that can be possessed. They are piloted by an entity inhabiting them. So crazy keywords. Okay, then we've got swift. So swift is when you attack, you don't receive a counterattack back. Very useful. Then we've got another real interesting keyword, which is paradox. When 2 players control the same character, regardless of persona, so it could be a different persona behind the dash or the same persona, doesn't matter. But when a paradox happens at the end of turn, both players will discard 1 card from their deck, so you'll be way quicker to get milled and decked out and have to lose 5 points from your health total. Okay, then we've got boost, which is basically the +1/+1 counters on characters. Okay, then at this point, I'll touch on the co-op mode real quick. Well, really, I've already touched on the co-op mode. So pretty much in the co-op mode, you're gonna have out a horizontal boss character card, and then up to 4 players. And like I said, I pretty much went over it. But it's gonna have this box which tells you the deck to go get and add these cards. And then this is what the guy does, the boss does. So you get a whole bunch of these cards when you get the GameCrafter. Fun for years in here, it looks like. So pretty much you can look up the reviews video. Like, he has a 6-part series on the game, going into way more detail than me right here. But his 6th video really details the co-op mode. And then you've got a boss who gets to take like extra long turns depending on the amount of players that you're playing, that it's playing against. And yeah, so to summarize, that is BetaEarth. It's on the GameCrafter right now. Looks really fun. I'm sure that the OG OverPower players will love it. Sci-Fi players will love it. If I were you, I'd go check it out right now. And I can't wait to get a game of this going myself. We'll try to do that real soon. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Hit that GameCrafter up, BetaEarth. I'll leave the links in the comments or whatnot. And y'all have a great one. Tupac. Yep, and I'm serious. Hit that GameCrafter. Don't be